الله يسلمك. أوكي.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم جميعا. We are very pleased and delighted to have Dr. Ahmed Shureen with us at Fahd bin Sultan University in collaboration with NEOM, with the lecture guests and the sessions that we continue to do. I think this is the fourth or the third session. Dr. Ahmed Shureen is a very well-known structural engineer. He has advanced degrees, PhD, Michigan, and he works also in King's Road University. He was professor there since 1990 up to 2013. He has significant influence on the engineering standards. He was 2001. Dr. Ahmed also is a good researcher with a very strong profile. He holds 2 institutional patents, numerous publications, and Fulbright Scholarship Award. He actively contributes to American Concrete Institute scientific committees. We are very happy to have Dr. Ahmed with us. He will give us a very insightful lecture, inshallah. And after this lecture, we open the floor for questions. Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Khaldun. Thank you very much. السلام عليكم وأسعد الله أوقاتكم. I'm very pleased وسعيد جدا أكون معكم اليوم. يعني في جامعة الأمير فهد بن سلطان، جامعة محترمة، وأرحب فيكم أيضا ويسعدني أن أكون بينكم. طبعا هنتكلم باللغة الإنجليزية طبعا زي ما انتم عارفين، فلكن إذا في حاجة أخرى ما عندي مانع أجاوب بالعربي أو بالإنجليزي في الحالتين. Thank you everyone. So the title of this presentation focusing really on building codes, and we're gonna also address some issue about applying the codes to mega projects like NEOM. This is against the same back history, so I'm going to just mention, as Dr. Khaldun already mentioned, the series. So basically, for education, as it was clear, I started from King Saud University as civil engineer, and then after graduation, went for University of Michigan for master and PhD, and returned to King Saud University as a faculty member, and through the ladder of education from assistant professor, associate, and to a full professor. During that period, of course, as in every university, we did a lot of research in various topics. After that, I mean, not after really, during that same period, SASO at that time contacted King Saud University, and they asked them that I moved from the university to SASO as advisor to the governor of SASO on codes and standards. I worked with SASO for 7 years, and in 2020, I received an offer from NEOM for the same issue for code and standard, and I joined NEOM back in 2020, and still there. I moved different department. Now I work with the line, but for the same focus of code and standard. So that's really the journey. Now, so I'll talk about a little history about codes and standard. Now, the historian look at in general, now this is not Saudi Arabia, in general about codes and standards. So the historian considered that Hammurabi code back in more than 2000, 1754 before, I mean, that is the first code. It's not a code in the sense of writing any specification or anything, but it is very simple. At that time, that's all you could have. So simply with the issue with the contractor, so to tell the contractor, okay, if you make a mistake, a builder, okay, then that's what you'll get. It is kind of the insurance that you will have to tell somebody you don't know, but so you, and I think this form to some extent, except there's no killing, but it's still one form of today contractual things in which you are asking the contractor to take full responsibility and with certain insurance. So the insurance at that time, so this is considered the first building code. And what is the risk at that time? The risk is the failure, of course. So nobody would like failure. And that's the way to handle it, that you are ensuring against failure by making clear to the builder the consequences of not doing the right thing. The other risk that came in history, or about some instance in history, is the fire. One of what happened. So the fire in 1666 in London considered a major thing. Why is it now considered? Because of that fire, now people realize, the government realized that they need to make certain code provisions, and in order to protect the people from the fire. So one of the things in general is to use non-combustible materials, so that to make it mandatory that material need to be non-combustible. So that's part of considered for risk and treatment. Other set of industrial revolution, the 18th and 19th century, so many changes happened in New York and other places in the United States. It is not until the beginning of 1900 that real today codes are started. So after 1900, you'll find that the coding and the language of the code today, you can see it. For example, in 1907, started the ACI code, the first edition. It was a few pages and that was the first code. So they are trying to do something. Later on, in the 1920s, something, UBC, Uniform Building Code, started its first edition. So the writing of the today code, I mean, the sense of formal codes, started really after the 1900s. So the most kind of governing codes in the United States during the 1900s is the model codes, and used to be 3 model codes, just depending on the geography of the United States. So there is BOCA, ICBO, and SPCC, and these are within the United States map regional governance. So a number of states, let's say in the West, California and around, that is the first one. So they have the Uniform Building Code. This is the name of the company. So, and however, by the end of the century, in 2000, this model code have been consolidated into one single code, one single model code, which is the ICC, or International Code Council, which is today is the dominant in the United States. It's the only major model code. Now, having that as model code, which is general provisions, at the same time, so many standards and subcodes, if you may say so, are created based on materials, based on system, like reinforced concrete, steel, or elevators, GAC, etc. Among these standards and codes it is based on specialties. For example, concrete is done by one single entity, American Concrete Institute. For example, HVAC is ASHRAE. which is another entity. For steel, there's another institute. So, and now how these are related, they are related to the model code. So the model code will not redo the same thing. For example, in the model code of ICC, when they talk about concrete, they simply refer to that sub or that standard of ACI. So it became very, very interesting and as a nest of references. So when you are saying, let's say, ICC or IBC, in particular, International Building Code, yes, it's one document, but it has thousands of references. And these references are mandatory. It's considered part of that code. So because they refer for each area to the specialist and the specialist document. So the new, in addition to that, we have accessibility and sustainability. These are started really, relatively speaking, recent in the sense of the last 30, 40 years, now recent. So the sustainability after 1987, something like this. And advancement to the accessibility and the need to take care of special needs, etc. These are the development. So in summary, building codes evolve with and society's values. So we saw disaster, fire, earthquakes, of course, so many of earthquakes affecting things, and material changes, material development, the new trend or the new need, like what you mentioned about sustainability, and that's with the environment, etc. So this is how building code developed. So it started from the basic things of life, it's like against failure, and then grow to the most advanced topics. Now, let's talk about Saudi Building Code, how it started. So the Saudi Building Code, before 2001, there was no formal Saudi code. So designers do by their own, whatever they choose to do, there's nothing mandatory to follow. So every, consultant or the engineering office, of course, they know and supposedly because based on their education, they know what are the references. But it's not formal, that's what I'm saying. There's no something called Saudi Building Codes before 2001. So in 2001, there was a royal decree 174 on the 3rd of September that issued that agreeing to the national plan, Saudi Building Code national plan. That was the royal decree. And the national plan itself, it is a booklet of about 20, 30 pages describing what should be done, what the plan to develop Saudi code. Among the decision is what are the source of the code? Because codes are not something that you write, start from scratch. Nobody doing that. So codes developed over the years and start from a small thing. For example, when I mentioned ACI in 1907 or UBC in 1927, I started with a few pages, and then every 3 years, in fact, in a continuous process, they are updating this code and expanding them. So we are realized that, the royal decree realized that, so they suggested this. It was not suggested by direct, it is part of the draft plan of the national plan that the royal decree agreed to it and make it for study. So different source codes suggested that you could think of the Unified Arab Code, National Standard, Canadian, European, American. So it's kind of given open invitation, do whatever, but study it. Now the committee later on decided on certain plan, but this is the original suggestion that you could go any one of these or mix or whatever. Now, and based on that, we need to reduce to the left the architectural, structural, electrical, etc. Now, based on, over, let's say 2001, over 6-7 years until the codes produced and published in 2007, decision had been made to follow ICC, the model code that you just mentioned over there in the United States, and some of its, because after studying all these options, we felt at that time that this is the best way to go. It is the most general things, and we can just adopt this code, but then modify them to fit the Saudi Arabia materials, experiences, everything. I mean, so to handle them in that sense. So today we have, I mean, 2024 edition, we have 28 codes. Of course, these 28, in 2007, only 12 codes. So 2007 produced 12 code produced. In 2018, the number, I think about 18, and now the 2024 edition is 28 codes, and you can see them, they are numbered and different colors to reflect the specialties. For example, anything start with 3, from 301 to 313, that's structural codes. The first one, Saudi General Code 201, we'll talk about it later. And depending on the specialties, that will also comment on, I mean, we'll go to each one of these codes and give you a few brief discussion about them. I think it would be good to take you to the site of the SPC just to show. Yeah, the site is very important to know that there is a free version that you could access the code and you can read the code. And this is the free browsing, and they'll take you there. If the network is working, okay. Okay, so it is, yeah, okay. It's not showing there, it's on my computer here. The IT, please, if there's a need to help me here. Yeah, هتفهم على الشاشة بس إنه ما just to share. وأنا أجرب كان اشتغلت كذا. Okay, I think no, this is no. يا أبو هذا يطلع على الشاشة هنا. يا تاتش. All right, okay, so thank you very much. شكرا. Okay, so if you access there, of course you need to register if you haven't done so, but after registering, you have 2018 and 2024, and okay, we're accessing, the title live browsing in English and Arabic, I think, I'm not sure, but it has both Arabic and English. All right, so you can see now, these are all the codes are available for viewing. So I just need to take one of them to give you a glance of what are the content of any typical code. All right. Okay, these are the formal code. This is the way it's published. Okay, here we have this is the national committee at this time, I mean, at publishing of 2024. Okay, and the advisory committee, this is the member who are, I mean, the technical committee, the advisory committee. Then you have developing the maps, etc. So just credit for whoever worked there. And these are the list of the code, the same list that I showed over there. And it is so this typical in every code you find this. Here you can see something here very interesting. If you open a code, there's a date here. Start with the two digits for the year, the month, and the day. So when you look at things, take that into consideration, because if you have a question and you ask somebody, you need to understand that they know which version is it. So this kind of giving the version of the document. One of the things here about the introductory part, two things very important. One, that in our codes here, the Saudi code, we have 3 editions. One is called Code and Commentary, and it's the letter CC after the name. And then we have Code Requirements Only, which is coined by CR. And then we have Code Summary in Arabic, and that is AR. So in every code, there are 3, except few, maybe 2 or 3 of them, only 2 versions. But the mostly, there are 3 versions. Now, also, you could see at the bottom also it mentioned the source of this code. So it is based on IBC 2021. So again, we are open about this transparency. Where is this code coming from? Of course, not necessarily entirely, it's modified, but I mean, as credit for the code that's coming originally based on that. So, so these are part of what I believe, yeah. So now, if you go to any pages inside, okay, I think that, I mean, just to give you, this is something, yeah. So the table of content, and then you have all the information inside. I'll skip it for now. I'll go back to okay. So yeah, so these are the 3, I mentioned 3 editions. Now, to the left side here, this is the code and commentary. Now you see the background, the background that is kind of blue. This is the commentary section. And to the right, you can see the same section but without commentary. So, for example, for 01 scope, it's for 11, and you have the same thing for 11. So this is from CR version. This is from CC. And then this is the Arabic one. The Arabic is very brief. Again, it's just translation of the main title. What is this section about? So, for example, here for 2.1, it just refers to chapter 19 as it is here. So there is nothing, and so there is, so in brief, the Arabic is not for design. It's only for information, somebody who is usually not engineer, but like to know what is it. It's not for designing, it's not for professional use, only for following somebody. Okay. So that's very important to realize that it's not equivalent. The English one is the one that is complete. The CC, the most complete. CR, a little next. The AR, only for general information. All right, so we'll talk now, take you through the list of the codes, what they are, I mean, what are the focus of each code. So the Saudi General Building Code, this is the main code that any, in professional sense, you need to use it. Whether you are mechanical, electrical, structural, any specialty, 201 is a must because it's kind of giving you the guidance about all the other codes. And it has in some areas telling the designer to follow something, to accept something, not to accept, etc. So this is the first code that needs to be shown, and it is the general code. 901, this is based on, this is for existing buildings that have been built before the code. So what to do about them? So that's what this existing code need to be used. 902, the historical building code is for historical buildings, and this is also a special case. 1001, that's the green construction code. That's the sustainability code. So it is the main sustainability code. It is 1001. And and it's based on IGCC, American Green Construction Code, and it's connected with the certification like LEED and etc. Of this, so it is companion for this. So it is the major sustainability code. Now 301. As the title says, it's about design, load, seismic, and structural design. All of these are structural now. 300 level, all structural. So for soils and foundation, 303. For concrete structure, 304. Construction in general, 302. And these are just high-level titles, of course. One need to go through the code itself to see more. And I'm watching also the time, so I'm not spending any focus on this. Then we have 305, which is for masonry, 306 for steel structure, and 307 is new in the sense, the first time published in Saudi code, which is about the seismic design of steel structure. So this is the first edition in Saudi Arabia. 308 is for cold form steel members, and 309 for cold formed steel light frames. 310 is new also for the first time. It is for assessment, repair, and rehabilitation of existing concrete structure. So this is the first edition. So it will be whenever there's a repair. So in fact, it will work with 901 existing building, and this one here focusing, yes, on repairing, but for concrete structure only. 311 also new the first time, which is for GFRP, glass fiber reinforced polymer, and this is the first edition in Saudi Arabia. And then 312, which is for precast concrete. And 313, this is not really a code similar to the others. It is a guide, technical guide for innovative residential construction. So this is for focus for residential systems. Now, next to this are group of energy and MEP. So we have the electrical, mechanical, conservation of energy, two of them, one for general building conservation and one for residential, which is 602. So 602 for residential only, 601 for everything else. And so these are, every one of them, of course, has its own objectives, goals, its detailed things, etc. 701 plumbing and 702 special plumbing, special sewage disposal. So this is used for outside main cities for 702. And then we have the fuel gas, which is 1201. Residential in general, we have two codes, volume 1 and volume 2, 1101 and 1102. 1101 mainly structural and architectural, and 1102 covering the other areas for mechanical, gas, energy, etc. So together we're calling them residential code. 801 now, that's very important. That's one of the key, which is the fire protection code. And 1401, that's maybe on the other hand, not that general. It's for swimming, pool and spa areas. So these are now the list of the codes, Saudi code. I can, by the way, I have no problem having a presentation available. So if somebody would like to read what I'm just skimming through, that could be arranged with you later on. So now 201, let's have another look on SPC 201, the General Building Code. And you can see now the content of it, how it's covering different topics. So you have structural design. That's what I said, you need to come to this code, because even now it has certain chapters here from 16 to 23. They are all structural codes. They are not doing everything by themselves. They are simply referring to other codes, but with some additional information. So it tells, yes, you can go to the other code, however, you need to do this and this and this. So this is very important for compliance. You need to see the 201 first, then you go to the code to see if there's any exception or any restriction or any other guidance. So that's for occupancy, to classify buildings, to do the basic things discovered in this chapter 3, 4, 5, 11. 11 is for accessibility. Interior environment about air, about sound, about the light, and of course it refers to something else. But I mean, this is the focus of this chapter. Now for fire, even we have their fire code. It is not without this. These codes are mandatory also. Because here, these chapters 7, 8, 9, 10, they are all talking about fire. So they are complementing, they are needed to understand, in fact, before 801. Because what is required here, for example, in chapter 7, is that how to make sure that the structural design is fire resistant. So this is not about the use of the fire later on, no, about the construction itself. So it's addressed certainly how the means of egress, because this is something you do during construction. So it has to be, you need to see it now, I mean, as a designer, to comply with. So you don't wait to the last minute and then see it. So that's why this code is general in the sense it is the main code, I would call it. Yeah, you cannot go to anything without it. So all right, here we have energy efficiency chapter. Of course, it's referred to 601, 602. We have electrical, it refers to 401, the electrical code. You have mechanical plumbing, reference the mechanical, but it has some materials in addition to referring them. And similarly. Now, there's one interesting point I would like to raise here is about the language of the code. The language of the code always, it's when the code tries to ask you to do something, it uses the term shall. No other words. You don't say must, you don't say should, you don't know. Only shall. So that's, it is the code and it means it's mandatory. Or shall not, it means prohibition and preventing you from doing that. So these are the two terms for language-wise. Nothing else equivalent, let's say, in the language, let's say, shouldn't or any other words. I mean, I know in normal English, yes, you have different words, but for the code, no, it's only these two words to make it very clear. And the other thing I would like to say is the prescriptive approach. The prescriptive statement is that when the code tells you about the number or something is very specific. These are examples for here. It says that a uniform life load shall not be reduced, okay, and that is the number, 1.2 kilonewton per square meter, etc., etc. So now you know this statement is prescriptive. It tells you exactly what are the numbers. On the other hand, we have this statement here, 1604.4. This statement says what? Said load effects on structural members and their connection shall be determined by methods of structural analysis that take into account equilibrium, general stability, geometric compatibility, and both short and long-term material properties. No numbers, no nothing. This is performance. Here, the statement assumes that you know what are these terms, that you need to do it, and so it's just giving you the general guidance. It does not tell you specifically what to do. So the analysis in previous code, by the way, maybe on some situation, you find the analysis to be with numbers. So they give you a coefficient, let's say beams, and you have this WL, something like this. This is not the case for performance. Performance, assuming that you know how to do that. And that's how this is applicable to almost anything, to any structure, to any project. Because nowadays, everyone is capable of having this software of structural analysis and with advanced knowledge. So you don't need to give you any numbers, but simply mentioning what should be considered, and that's equilibrium, stability, compatibility, etc. Okay, now similarly now, but I would like to mention here something, as we said before about 201 as the general building code. See the reference to this statement, 1604.9, this is from the code 201. However, it says that you need to go to 301. You see, so the 201 is the main code, as we are calling it that way, and it's referring to other codes. So it tells you what to do. So it says, so there are things you need to follow exactly from chapter 16 in this code in 201, and it tells you that certain things need to be followed from 301. Now this is for wind and seismic. So this is part of understanding the relationship between codes. We start with 201. 201 will tell us where to go after that, if there's an exception. Of course, after knowing it for a while, you don't need to do it every day. But I mean, starting point, that's the connection between things. That this is the main driver, which is the building code 201, the general building code, and it has certain authority and to make sure that certain things are done accordingly. To 304 for the complete information. For steel, again, you see the word, and you see the word shall and everywhere. So this is just example. You will find references everywhere. You don't need to know it from here. Just the idea that any code, this code, the general building code, telling you where to go, what to do. Okay, this is, I think, a slide I would like to discuss about part of who is supposed to be taking care of the code, who is enforcing the code. Now, in general, we could say, yeah, it's al-Baladiyya, okay? That's fine, but here it tells you exactly what are the responsibility. So, give you the duty and powers of building officials. So what is هي الصلاحيات مسؤول البلدية. مو ضروري يكون بلدي، مسمى نفسه تحت أي مسمى. So here you can see part of what's needed. They need to do the permitting, tarkhis. They need to do the inspection. So any building should be inspected, and should be inspected by the authority, and the authority are the building official. The building official needs to be defined. And so, yeah, usually it's defined under MUMRA, of course, under the Ministry of Municipality and Rural Affairs, or the new name now, Municipality and Housing. So these are very essential things that need to be followed, and there are certain responsibility for building official. Now, this example here, this is part of the code now. Let's talk about strength. I'm taking it as example. So it tells also, it is, again, this is a performance statement, and tells building and other structure, etc., shall be designed. Now, loads and forces for occupancy or uses not covered in this chapter shall be subjected to the approval of the building official. So the building official need to be clearly understanding everything in the code, and when the designer facing some issue that's not clear or need to get the permission of something or advice, they need to have the building official support. So the code now is relying very much on having that entity that you call building official. All right, this is the other code, 301. The 301 is, of course, 3 means structural. So anything starts with 3, it's a structural code. So 301 Saudi code for structural design, load, seismic, and wind. And as you can see here, for seismic, we have chapter 11 to 23. For wind, chapter 26 to 31. And for other loads are in chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. This is very, I mean, you cannot do structure without starting here. So this is the code, the leading structural code. Okay, so yeah, I think I'll leave it at this point for the, now I would like to go through just quick things about how earthquake affects building and how to design. Now, of course, why earthquake? I'm talking about earthquake here in Tabuk. As you know, I mean, the map, this is the highest seismic zone in Saudi Arabia is in this area. So it is very, I think, a must for everyone living in Tabuk or studying in Tabuk or just passing by Tabuk to be aware of the seismic. All right, this is just, I mean, an introductory statement for maybe for our colleagues and students, and just to understand what is how the seismic effect. Now, if you are riding a car and suddenly you accelerate down there, what will happen? But don't try it. Somebody will be going back because of the inertia. So the inertial forces on person or building. So when the ground moves or the car moves, so the car with respect to the person or the building because of the seismic. In either case, if it's moved this way, then the reaction is that movement would be the other way around. So that's the way it's shown here by the person tilting the other side. The opposite is here. So yeah, when you move, that will go with the acceleration that you will, or braking, then that's what will happen here. Now, this is just the general concept. Now, for any seismic, let's say at some point, and then you have a building at other points here, there will be, as usual, will be some soil layers, and these layers, of course, will be defined From the map, we will be defining the earthquake map. We will find the coefficient called SS and S1. So we have maps for each one of them. And based on that and based on the soil, you can determine the forces that this building will be subjected to and this is explaining how to, assuming that there's a city in Jeddah, for example, and you need to have a building. So what to take from here, what are the coefficients, and how to determine the site coefficient, etc. This is really, because of the time, I'm going to skip it, but it is in 1101. Okay, now, can these Saudi building codes be applied to mega projects? This is a question. Now, we talked about these codes in general. Do we expect, let's say, project like NEOM, the line, for example, to be that we use these codes, or do we need to use something else? So I'm trying to answer this question indirectly. So first, let's look at something in NEOM. This is part of the line, sketch of the line. You see so many entities here. You have the stadium at the top here. You have different entities. You have university. You have everything within the same. So this is a vertical city. So instead of having them in a horizontal way, having these buildings distributed over, every one of them will be responsible. The framing of the line of this typical general framing. So you have here certain cores, and you have hard floors extending in different. Now, I cannot, share more than this, but now let's see. I would like to go to my question that I asked: can the code be used for this? All right. So the first thing, if we are trying to follow the code, is there are certain things that you can do, which is input location, this category, look at the maps, and the maps, we have maps for what we call SS, and we have maps which is short period, and we have maps for 1 second period or long period, and we have site class based on soil. These are all detailed, and you can see the section number for each one of them. This is in Code 301, Chapter 11 in particular. And so there are also different equation. What we will end up from this is the classification based on the acceleration that we are getting from the code, from the map, and then multiplying them by the soil modification, then reduce them by 2/3, and then that will use the output from this as input in this table, and it will tell us one that we are now for the line we are categorizing as D. So this is the highest. No, not just among that. D is the highest risk category. So it means that you need to have it to be accessible even after earthquake. Now, in general, for other than, let's say, something like the line, you will decide that in the city, let's say the police station, the hospitals, that will be considered class D. because you need them to be active, not damaged after seismic. For the line, because things are all within, it means everything needs to be, because if somebody, let's say at the stadium at the top over there, or the university, cannot say, well, the university is not risk category D. If the university is outside, like here we have this university, yeah, it will be only the university, part of the university will be D. But because the whole university is within the building, with the line, then it means the whole line needs to be classified as D, meaning it has to have highest, to be accessible all the time before or after the seismic. So this is the first thing. This is the map now, just one of the maps. This is what we are calling it 0.2 second, which is the SS that I mentioned. And you can see here the highest is New, of course, or Tabuk in general, yes. So Tabuk is having the highest earthquake. And then there's Jizan at the bottom there, that's the second the others really almost like areas like in Riyadh, there's almost nothing. And so this is the map, which is very much, this map is from 301, SPC 301, and it is need to be followed exactly. Now, once we decided that, okay, this structure, so either for the line or for something else is seismic category D, we have this table which is tell us what system can be used for that building, okay? So you can see now that the seismic design category, B, C, D, E, F, this is different from the risk. The risk is A, B, C, D. This is now the seismic design category that we get it from the table on the previous slide. So based on that, let's say now, again, the default is D for the soil that we don't know. So again, for the line, we are assuming D. So D and D. Okay, so if we look at the systems, it's either not permitted, NP, not permitted, or there is a number 50. That's 50 is a meter, 50 meters. So this is the height that's permissible based on this table. So our system, the line system, is really special reinforced concrete shear walls. The one we saw over there, these are shear walls. So now we are searching for that. That has been decided from the architectural that this will be the system. So now, in order to follow that, I'll come to this one here, special reinforced shear wall, and to see it's allowing 50 meters. However, the line's 500. So it means it's not acceptable. All right, so it's not acceptable based on this table and based on these methods. So how to deal with this? Now, chapter 12 telling us what to do in this situation. So if things are, let's say if that building is just 50 meters or less, then it means the standard design path. It means okay, yes, then follow what is given here to the left side. Now the fact is no, that means we need to do it now in a performance-based approach. And that would require independent review. So it's not now only the designer deciding, they need reviewers who are independent and experienced. And of course, the thing that I would like to mention here, which is the mandatory approval is required from the building official. Okay, so this is better than the designer in order, because now they are the one who are going to give approval. So this is another area about the importance of building official and their role in this process. So, of course, I mean, the once alternative system, there are so many ways. So it's not really a dead end. It's just that it requires some special approach for it. And the code has different chapters talk about so many alternatives. But this is the road. So you need to, there is something formal. You need to have somebody looking at the process and approving the process. So it's not just the engineer deciding on their own. Even though they might be experienced and they can do it, but still they need to share whatever they have, what they think, and somebody said, yes, that's the right thing, you can do that. So this is the final slide of the key takeaway, what we are summarizing today about this. The first thing is that building codes, it is a continuous evolution. So building codes, as we saw from the beginning of Hammurabi to today, Saudi code evolved with technology, disaster, and society values, always striving for safe, fairer, and more resilient community. Second thing that's very important to take from this is that knowledge-based development. Codes are refined through regular revisions. So the codes are not written just one time. As I mentioned, for example, codes started from the beginning of 1900 and editions almost every 3 or 6 years until now. And you'll find, well, next year, the year after, always there is improvement. So this is need to be understood. It's not that one decide at one time, let's write a code. No, it's not that way. That's why I'm just trying to convey this message. So it is incorporating decades of accumulated knowledge from research and field experience. Third thing that is important is the shift to performance. Any one of you who've been familiar with or can look at any code, let's say 30, 40 years ago, you'll find everything almost clear and explicit. If you talk about structural analysis, you'll find coefficients, you'll find numbers, everything in numbers. So now here we are seeing that no problem with numbers, still they are there, but you need to have to use the knowledge that you are learning in college, in your private time, in your educational things, by all means. So the performance is become now the tool for advanced topic. Of course, I talk about something like the line, I cannot think of that I'll find numbers that I just use for the line. There's no such thing. Essential education, now since we are at the university, I would like to say that it's very important that codes are incorporated, integrated within the curriculum, depending on which area. So if you are electrical, then you have the electrical code, not necessarily entirely, but at least the principles there, and to encourage instructional. From my experience, we did this at King Saud University back after 2001, after 2007 when it's published. Then we took the decision at that time. So it is part of what we teach when we teach reinforced concrete. We always refer to SPC 304. And if we are teaching, let's say, steel, it will be to steel 306, etc. So this just call for the young engineers, the youngest student here to look at it from that perspective, how important for their learning. The last one, which is not the least important, but maybe very important on the same level, that we need qualified building officials. We saw now the role of building officials. The expectation in the code is very high, that the building official needs to be really knowledgeable. It's not maybe what is happening sometimes, that they think of them just simply doing the old things this. Just simply ask somebody to do something, and so it is a message. I'm sure it will be understood in that sense, that the building official need to be highly qualified because the stake is high. The code expecting them to do certain things that are maybe today, from my experience with today in municipality, etc., they are not thinking of it that way. But I hope through that this will be carried out in this format. So thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and we'll be happy to answer any question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ahmed, for the lecture. And I know that we are exceeded time and you have some commitments and some classes. So we have room for one or two questions, please. If you have a question.
معلش. Well, free copy. The free copy is the one I used when I entered there. That's the free browsing. So free browsing is available for anybody within Saudi Arabia, by the way. So if there is somebody outside listening to this note, you cannot access it. It's within Saudi Arabia. You can access the free codes. So it is the CR version of it. For a student, if you think of something, I remember this discussion a long time, you can contact this PC, Saudi Building Center. But I think you have it already. I mean, the free version is it's only for reading. You cannot copy it. You cannot do anything about reading. Just look, but you can read it freely anytime, so many times.
Okay, go ahead. One last question.
So my question is, there are some kind of international frameworks for sustainability and rating systems, such as LEED, endorsed by USBGC, the United States Green Building Council, I believe. So my question is, how does NEOM in general and the line especially align with these rating systems? Are they compliant, or is there any kind of like new rating system that needs to be implemented in the line?
Okay, if I understand you correctly, okay, you're talking about the source of the code with the international, is that right?
Like, is the project in compliance with international codes?
Yeah, okay. Now, from legal point of view, any buildings, any construction in Saudi Arabia need to follow Saudi Building Code. That is a royal decree issued back in 2018. So there's no, it's a must. Now the question will be, okay, I get your point. Are these codes covering everything? The answer is yes, with understanding, of course. It's not purely, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, it's not prescriptive yes. It is yes with the understanding of the performance issue. So everything is covered. Now the line, we are not having problem, let's say, we don't know something how to deal with it. No, we know anything about it. Yes, there might be some back and forth discussion, like in any intellectual discussion. For example, choosing the method, I give that example about, okay, 50 is not 50 meters not acceptable. So it means that method is not acceptable. It does not mean that that system can. So it's not word for word, but yes, it is the framework that's covering everything. So today, and as we know, also part of the understanding, which is very important, thank you for the question, we have the cross references. Now, I did not show that statement, but there is a statement within 201 and also in other codes, but 201, as we said, it's the general, telling that any reference within this code is considered part of this code. And it's referring to so many areas. So there is nothing that you could say, well, it's not covered. It will be covered through this referencing. Okay. So I don't know if this answers your question. I don't need to go to Europe or to China or anything else.
I think that's enough. Thank you, Dr. Ahmed, for the insightful lecture. And we thank everyone here for attendance, and we hope to see you in the next session, inshallah. And thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay.